get rich or die trying. It's amazing how many times you hear somebody use that phrase and not fully understand the commitment or the full definition of what those words actually mean. Maybe it means something different to each individual. But there's a man named Curtis James Jackson the third, aka 50 Cent, that put those words to action. Now, those words belong actually more to 50 Cent than actually Curtis James Jackson. But this is a guy that I've done a little discussion paper over in the past few months. And I've done some researching and some discovery, some interviews that he done, and also listened to some of his audiobook. And what I learned is at a young age, his mom passed away. That means obviously he went to live with his grandmother. Now his mom wasn't there in the household. She was always away. She's pretty much in the street, selling drugs, and she, led to her death. And while he's living with his grandmother, he kind of followed along in the same footsteps. And that meant he was going to school, but he was ditching school part of the time, in and out. And after school is a time when a lot of juveniles and people, it's typical this time after school is when people get into the most trouble because it's in a transition phase between the school and the home. And sometimes it's a time when kids just don't have anything else to do. So they fill those gaps, sometimes with mischief. Everybody has their choice of what they do. But his choice was to say he was going to after school programs. And instead of going to the after school programs, he took after his mom and selling drugs in the street and got into that kind of street life. And the money came fast, and he was really about the money. I mean, 100% about the money. And there's a little bit of a rush that went along with that, making the money. But it's common that you see people when they're selling drugs, they're using. That's not the case here. Not for Curtis. So as he came up, eventually he got caught. He got arrested. He got like a little pat on the back the first time, and the same cycle continued. Second time, he got picked up. He went into boot camp. And that, if you're not familiar with that, go look it up. But I won't go into the details of that. But it's a type of corrections for juveniles. And he made the decision once he was in the boot camp to come out and be on the straight and narrow and do things right and clean up a lot of the dirty aspects of his life, which he done. And then he got into the rap game, producing an album, and became what you know today is 50 Cent. Now, what's interesting is he made it a choice to go on the straight and narrow. And he said he only, he backslid one time, and it was to support one of his albums. And it was I believe it was his first one to go on. But it's not a backsliding type of way to where, he was in and out of rehab and that type of thing. But he continued on. And one of the things that I listened about, the things that he said that happened to him is his, just basically his morals and the rules that he lives by and the loyalty code that he puts on the people that surround him to help him become a better person. And it's not just become a better person for a couple of days. It's always that improvement that he's seeking to be. And from his book, he told a story, and it was a story about the people that he surrounded himself with. His crew is what you would call it. But one of the guys on his crew, he gave, I think he had a little authority here and there, and everybody had their own particular job that they had to do in order to make things function right. Now, when going out onto the tour, he explained to his crew the rules of the tour, and he told them he wouldn't tolerate any fighting between them. You're only as strong as your weakest link, and he didn't want fighting or any kind of animosity in the group and to lead to violence. And he told everybody there's no second chances. You violate those rules and you're going home. So the tour commences, and this guy that has a little authority, he took some liberties and took some of the clothing that belonged to 50 Cent and some of the other ones, and he wore them and kind of took that ball into his side of the court and went with it. And one morning, this guy confronted one of the other crew members about wearing some of that particular clothing. And this is like right before 5 a.m. in the morning, before they leave to go out on to the next city. And he gets into it with the guy, and they're arguing over whose piece of clothing it is. And they get into a physical confrontation. And one thing leads to another. And 50 Cent goes out front and confronts the two, breaks them up, and explains to them his rule. There's no second chances. And he tells his people, buy this guy a bus ticket. He's gone. Get him out of here. And it made believers out of the rest of the people, that he meant what he said. He had the strict rules, no second chances, no fighting between each other. Now, this guy, as he gets back on the bus, I'm sure he's thinking about his actions and the things that he should have done, but he underestimated his commitment and his rules. And that's kind of a weakness in his loyalty and his integrity, to break those rules and think that he can take advantage of them and rewrite the script for himself. Now, this guy, when he went back to whatever city it was, he put together some other acts, and I think he's a producer or something, put together some other acts and had 50 Cent listen to him, and he really wasn't interested in taking them on tour or anything like that. But eventually, this guy he just kept going downhill, making bad choices. One thing led to another, and he got deported out of the country and went back to his country. I think it was Trinidad. And the thing about this is, still to this day, this guy blames 50 Cent for his failures. He blames him for the fight, blames him for kicking him out, buying him the bus ticket, blames him for the failed acts that he was putting together, and eventually leading to his deportation. Now, you see this not just in, this situation that I'm talking about. We see this in other situations in life. If people, they expect the rules to just bend because of their point of view, when somebody can lay out the groundwork for you and they can lay out the rules for you, but you tend to walk on that and abuse those rules and not expect somebody to make you adhere to them. You expect a second chance when somebody tells you strictly there's no second chance. It's like you don't expect somebody to enforce their own rule. And this goes to the people that you surround yourself with and making the whole group a strong group. Because when somebody steps out of line, you're only as strong as your weakest link. So you banish them, or you kick them out of the group to make the group stronger. And the method works because it gives an example to the people that's already there, not to try and bend the rules or break the rules or what have you. But watch around you. People know what the rules are And maybe it's your household, maybe it's out in public, um, certain laws out in society. People expect those rules to bend based on their wants, not based on some of them based on their needs, but pretty much based on what they want at the moment. They expect the rules to bend and adjust just specifically for them. And you ask yourself why somebody expects these rules to not adhere to them. So take a moment to think about what are a couple of things that you've done where you knew the things that you were doing were wrong, but you expected to get a pass on it. Does that behavior continue? Is that just a one-time thing? How do you know if it's just a one-time thing? Because once you're led down the road and you get a taste of it, depending on what it is, you may not return. Is that what did you expect out of your fellow colleagues, the people you surround yourself with? But that's been another episode of Mini Talks. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch me next Monday. Same place. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. If you're on iTunes, leave a review. Catch it on YouTube. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. If you're on the Facebook page or anything, leave a comment there. Ask a question. Hope you enjoyed listening, and I'll catch you next time.